Hello and welcome to this special edition of FYI Weekly. We are dedicating this show to the continued tornado relief efforts as we speak with City Department representatives and partnering agencies who are helping our residents recover from this storm. Joining me now to give us a first-hand account of the tornado's impact on property and the people who were hit directly is City Council Member Sharon Hightower, who represents East Greensboro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, you have been on the ground literally since day one, and I'd love to know, what are some of the stories that you've heard along the way?
Well, the stories I've all heard have not been good stories. I will tell you that. Very heartbreaking, heart-rendering, and but really stories of courage and resilience. People who have lost everything, literally, not the clothes on their back is all they own at this particular point in time. Just surviving roof houses being torn off, all the windows being shattered. One particular house has 35 windows and all of them got broken out. So it's been really, really sad to find out that the people have gone through this tragedy. Even one gentleman who was looking for something as simple as a bed, even though he found a roof over his head, he was sleeping on the floor on his clothes just to have something cushiony underneath him. So we found him a bed. Matter of fact, we found him someone who gave him a whole bedroom set. And so as people begin to rebuild their lives, it's not just about houses. Once you put them in there, all the things that you've lost, all the memories you've lost, the pictures and the photo albums and the wedding albums, grandma's picture, granddad's picture. People are talking about all of those things. And I've got 80-year-old senior citizens. How do they rebuild after this? Nobody wants to be faced with another 30-year mortgage on their property at this age of the game. They thought they were at a point in their lives where they could really relax and enjoy the remainder of their lives. But now everybody's having to start over.
And as they start over, there's been a huge outpouring of support, as you know. What is your word, or what are your thoughts that you want to share with the people in East Greensboro?
One thing I want them to know is that they will not be forgotten. Because I hear that time and time again, that after all the media hype is gone, and all the people have stopped with the cameras and the pictures, and all the volunteers kind of go away and get back to their daily lives, will we be remembered? And how will we be helped? And I want them to know that we're here for the long haul. We're in it until everyone's life is back to normalcy. And so whatever that takes, we're going to be here to do that. We're not going away by any means. It's going to take a little patience, because as we work through the process of exactly how we're going to be able to help, because there are going to be people that have no insurance. And so how do we help? There's going to be people with minimal damage, and we'll have to help them to rehab their property. And we don't want them to be faced with any financial devastation to them as well. And so we want them to know that whatever it is they're going to go through, we're going to be here to support them.
And that is very comforting and reassuring. I know you are tired because you have been walking, you've been sitting, you've been talking, you've been meeting with people in East Greensboro. You live in East Greensboro, so this is near and dear to your heart. And we thank you, and our thoughts go out to you as well, and everyone in East Greensboro.
Well, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to this effort, because out of the outpouring of their heart, we've seen a lot of love and compassion from people all across the city, and I want to thank everybody for that. But I also want to thank the people that are going through this, because these are my neighbors, and you're right, I live in East Greensboro, but I go to the grocery store with them, and I go to church with them. I see them in the parks, and I see them on the street, and so I meet them wherever they are. And I thank them for their resiliency, because they are, even under these circumstances, they are holding up quite well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Councilman Hightower. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up after the break, we'll hear from United Way about your generous support for the tornado relief. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Greensboro community responded immediately to those in need following the devastating tornado. Joining me now to talk about fundraising activities at United Way of Greater Greensboro is Michael Cottingham, Vice President of Communications. Hello, Michael. Good to see you again.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell me, what were some of the ways United Way was able to rally the community?
First off, I'd like to just say thank you to everyone who responded. The support through monetary donations as well as donation of goods and volunteers is just overwhelming. Together we are definitely Greensboro strong, so that's very inspirational. Right off the bat, United Way of Greater Greensboro began listening to the city and the county, and when we were activated to be that receiver of monetary donations, we went into action. Right off the bat, we created an online giving link, and then we worked with news media, WFMY in general, or in specific, approached us with a telethon, and that Tuesday we had our first telethon, and then followed that up again with another telethon Thursday.
Well, I stopped by the first telethon,
Yes.
and it was very energetic, very inspiring, very encouraging to see so many different people manning the phone lines and
Yes.
collecting those donations, and the excitement and willingness of people to give. How can people continue to support the effort if they have not already done so?
Right, so United Way, GSO.org, there is a main picture at the top of the page that says GSO Tornado Relief. You can go there, click on that, it goes directly to the relief efforts. I would encourage people to also continue volunteering. That's going to be an ongoing need as well. And so if people want to volunteer, they can go to volunteergso.org and find what the need is.
Okay, and I'm sure people will be curious to know, how much have you collected so far in donations?
Absolutely. We're pleased to say that over $100,000 has been given to our GSO Tornado Relief Fund. We're also pleased to announce that we are issuing a $64,000 check to the Greensboro Housing Coalition to address the immediate housing needs and long-term housing solutions for those impacted by the tornado.
Well, thank you, Michael. This is wonderful news. We have so many needs out there, especially with housing, and we appreciate always the great work coming out of United Way of Greater Greensboro.
Thank you.
Thank you. Several individuals and families have been displaced as a result of the April 15th tornado. After the break, find out what housing resources are available for homeowners and renters. Welcome back to FYI Weekly. The city is working tirelessly to identify rehousing solutions for people who were displaced from the comfort of their home after the tornado. Joining me to explain housing assistance for storm victims is Stan Wilson, Director of Neighborhood Development. Hello, Stan. Thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Carl.
What options are available for homeowners or renters, primarily those who do not have insurance?
Well, one of the first things that we're doing is we're working with the Greensboro Housing Coalition and some of our nonprofits, and we're trying to help people to get rehoused and help them to get that immediate assistance. Neighborhood development, we're actually working with individuals as well, talking about what kind of assistance we can provide that can really help with security deposits, that can also help in terms of cases where people do not have insurance as well. So we're working together. It's a community effort, and we're really trying to help people to get rehoused and get them the assistance that they need.
And is there a lengthy process to this, as far as you know?
Well, one of the things, we have to respond quickly, so we're working with our partners to move quickly. There are resources that are available that allow things to happen fast in light of the situation. And also, too, we're looking at our programs and we're streamlining things so we can really help people and do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, you mentioned the Housing Coalition. Who do residents call if they need assistance with housing?
Well, the number that they can call the Housing Coalition at 336-691-9521. And they can also call in at Neighborhood Development. And we've got a line, 336-373-2349. So they can call in directly, and we'll take their information as well. And we're looking at a broader strategy on how we can help in the long term. So we're going to reach out to everyone that's been affected, make sure that they're receiving the assistance that they need, and then also see where we can help too. I mentioned it's a longer term strategy, so we're recruiting contractors now to come back and do some of that work. We're going to talk to the people who really have their homes been destroyed. It's going to take a while for us working with them. We're going to start with them, but also working with Community Housing Solutions, working with Habitat, and the contractors I mentioned. We're going to create a schedule and a timeline to go back and help to begin to repair those homes.
Well, we do appreciate everything that neighborhood development is doing, the outreach that you're coordinating with our community partners to expedite the process. As we know, it's very devastating to lose your property, and I can't even imagine if you've lost your entire home. So thank you so much to you and your team for all that you're doing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. The aftermath of the tornado left an assortment of debris in its wake. Field operations will stop by with an update on collection activities. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back. Trees, limbs, and all sorts of storm debris has the field operations crews working diligently. Joining me now to explain how much debris has been removed is Dale Wyrick. He is director of the Field Operations Department. Hello, Dale. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Carla.
Can you give us an idea of how many tons of debris has been removed so far?
Sure. Since just after the storm, we've taken a total of about 4,000 tons of debris to the White Street landfill. That's with city crews and city contractors working 7 days a week.
Wow, 4,000 tons is astronomical. How would you estimate how much more is out there?
We estimated when the storm hit, and this storm's been unique in its own way, but we estimated somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000, between 5,000 and 10,000 tons of vegetative debris, and then also about another 5,000 of construction and demolition debris. So we're right on pace for where we estimate with the vegetative debris. We're as far as what city crews have hauled to the landfill with construction and demolition, we're somewhere around 350 tons right now. But there are private contractors taking that to the landfill as well.
Okay, and with so much more work to be done, what is your plan moving forward?
Well, we're certainly going to keep our yard waste and bulk restrictions relaxed for folks that were directly impacted by the storm. So, you know, it's a fairly narrow path of damage. So we're honed in on that area. We intend to keep those yard waste and bulk restrictions relaxed, and we will continue to operate the White Street landfill on some extended hours, primarily. Saturday hours are going to be extended. You know, at some point we will not be working on Sunday at the White Street landfill, but as far as this weekend's concerned, we will. And then for folks that have got damage and they want to haul it to the landfill themselves, they just need to let our scale house attendants know they were, you know, affected by the tornado, and we'll waive the fees at the landfill for that.
I'm sure they will appreciate that, and we certainly appreciate everything that you and your team has been doing. You've been working different hours, extended hours, different days of the week to really try to get in and make a dent in all of this debris that needs to be collected. And I know that is a relief to our residents when they see the trucks coming out, and certainly you've made it convenient for everything to be put at the curb.
Sure, and we really have. Our crews, all city crews in fact, have done a great job responding to this. I'm very proud of our employees for what they've done. Community has been great to work with. Everybody's really remained positive and upbeat, even in the face of so much destruction, frankly.
Yes, and that's been encouraging. Well, we thank you so much, Dale, for field operations and everything that you do on a daily basis. But it's times like this when your team has to really go into overdrive, and we're so thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Water Resources has been coordinating a response to the tornado relief since day one. We'll have an update on their progress. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back. Water Resources has deployed teams to assist with the cleanup efforts also being tackled by field operations. Joining me now to explain how this became a regional response is Steve Drew, Director of Water Resources. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Thank you. So thank you for all that you and your team has done throughout this effort. What role did Water Resources play in the initial response to this storm?
Oh wow, it wasn't long after 5 o'clock that the calls started coming in, and we had many pump stations down, treatment plants because of all the loss of power. So the first thing our teams had to do was to make sure that emergency power was back in place so that we could keep water and sewer service up and running unnoticed to our customers. So then we turned our focus to assisting field operations with debris removal.
And there is such a massive load of debris to be cleared out, and a lot of progress has been made. How did this become a regional effort?
Sure. Well, it started out that we pitched in about half of all our water resources crews to start, and so we removed them from a lot of water and sewer work to do that, and it was necessary to assist field operations. And as we realized what the tonnage was out there, getting a chance to assess it, and had to rely on our field operations director and his team, to get that number, it was pretty huge. So I had a conversation with the field operations director, offered to help and to take some of the administrative burden off of him, and I and my team reached out to several other municipalities throughout the state for mutual aid to bring in fully self-sufficient crews.
Wonderful. And can you give us an example of who has come to Greensboro to help?
That's right. So all week we've been receiving crews. We first received help from our neighbors over in High Point, followed by Burlington. Winston-Salem is assembling a team. We've also gotten equipment loans from Kernersville and Reedsville, and we're getting ready to receive a couple of teams from Raleigh.
Wonderful. So it really goes to show when an emergency happens, it spreads out as far as the assistance that comes in, and I'm so glad to know that you have that kind of relationship with these other neighboring communities who are willing to come to Greensboro to help.
We surely are. We have a great community in North Carolina, and they show up to help every time.
Well, thank you, Steve, so much for all that you and the Water Resources Department is doing.
Okay, thank you.
The massive power outages caused several street closures because traffic signals were out. Find out how the Greensboro Police Department kept the flow of traffic moving. Stay with us. Police officers immediately responded after the tornado hit East Greensboro, serving multiple important roles. Joining me now to explain how this all came about through the police department is Deputy Chief Mike Ritchie. Hello, Chief. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
So how difficult was traffic control in the first few days following the storm?
So actually it was quite difficult. We had all of our major streets, east, west, and north, south, were blocked by some sort of debris, whether it was trees, power lines, or parts of houses. And so for the public safety, we had to block those streets with live power lines down. And with that, we brought in, the very first night, brought in about 20 officers off duty to immediately come out and help with that. The next day, we brought in 90 to 100 each day for the following week to help with power crews and help people and volunteers to get into the area.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate those efforts. I know that was very taxing and difficult and a little bit confusing for people, not knowing where to go when you go down one way and trees or some kind of debris is blocking your path. So explain the presence of having police officers in the neighborhoods that were hit by the tornado.
Certainly. So what we really had to help with was neighbors only knew one way into their houses. They only knew one area that they might live in or how to get to a place. So we had to help out all the way from being ambassadors with directions to actually blocking lines and making sure that the power crews could do their work, the tree removal crews could do their work. And so really, I'd say the number one thing we became were ambassadors, really trying to help get people from one side to another to help each other out. Because one of the things that we were impressed with was the number of volunteers that came out to help their neighbors and really bring Greensboro together.
Nice, and we appreciate all of the efforts of the police department, from the traffic control to, as you said, just assisting within the neighborhoods, because it's a scary time, and I'm sure your presence there made a lot of people feel safe.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Ritchie. Thousands of residents were without power, and downed power lines kept our firefighters working around the clock. We'll hear about their contributions coming up after the break. At the height of the storm, more than 21,000 residents were without power. The fire department stepped up to make wellness checks and promote personal safety. Joining me now to explain how that process works is Assistant Fire Chief Dwayne Church. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So tell us, what are firefighters looking for when you would go door to door throughout the neighborhoods?
Well, Sunday about 5:13 is when we received the first call, and Engine 4 was the first unit that was dispatched to this location in reference to a tornado. Once we arrived, we noticed that we were not going to be able to drive down these streets, so we got our firefighters off the trucks and put them with medical bags, forcible entry tools, and we started going door to door just really for rescue reasons, to check on the safety of the residents and just check for their well-being.
And there were so many downed power lines. Did that pose an issue for you?
Absolutely. One thing that we've always got to be aware of is keeping our personnel safe, first of all, and then the residents safe, to keep them away from the power lines. There were so many power lines down that we were just having to avoid those power lines and go door to door and just check on the residents.
And speaking of safety, did this event present an opportunity for you to reinforce the importance of an emergency plan, but also just fire safety in general?
Yeah, one thing that we did see, and a lot of people didn't think of, and we didn't think of initially, is when the tornado come through, it was, of course, around 5 o'clock, and a lot of people were cooking supper. And once the power goes off and the electrical lines are down, they just walk away from their stoves with the food on the stove. Once the power was restored a couple of days later, the stoves would come back on with the food still on there, and a lot of people weren't home. So we had a couple of structure fires due to those pots of food being on the stove when the stove would come back on and be unattended. We did have one case where we had an apartment building and they had a working smoke alarm, and that smoke alarm notified the neighbors who called 911, and we were able to save that structure. Unfortunately, we were unable to save one of the structures that this happened to, and they had about $70,000 worth of damage to their structure.
Wow. Well, this is a good reminder in advance of the next disaster that we might have for people to keep those things in mind.
Right.
Chief Church, we thank you and the firefighters and the Greensboro Fire Department for all that you've done during this tornado relief effort.
Thank you.
Thank you. The outpour of community support in the wake of this tornado has coined the term Greensboro Strong. Coming up after the break, we'll talk to Interim City Manager David Parrish. Welcome back. The level of compassion and willingness for strangers to help strangers has served as evidence that we as a community are Greensboro Strong. Joining me now to talk about the relief effort and what it has meant to the city is Interim City Manager David Parrish. Hello, David. Thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Are you surprised in any way by how Greensboro residents have rallied around East Greensboro?
Yeah, I think what's been remarkable to all of us who've been involved and been helping is that despite the devastation and despite the tragedies that have occurred during the severe weather event and the weeks after, the encouraging part has been how the community has come together as a whole. Not just the City of Greensboro services, not just nonprofits or faith-based or other assistance agencies, but as a whole, the community organically and formally combined have really stepped up and helped neighbors out.
Yes, and that has been encouraging for everyone who's watched this unfold. What are the next steps as far as reimbursement from the state and federal governments, considering we had so much devastation?
So both agencies, state and federal, have been in. We followed our process through notifying them immediately, working to set up all of our services that we needed on the ground immediately within that first week and the week after. But since that time, both agencies have been in. They have surveyed the damage. They are going through their preliminary assessment. That has now made its way through. As of today, the governor has sent out a press release that he's requesting assistance from the federal government. We're just awaiting back the word and the affirmation from them that they will be providing assistance. But in the meantime, we still continue to be on the ground, as you've heard from today, out in the communities, helping with debris, helping people can make connections where there are still needs. And then if and when the federal and state government decide to come in and help, we'll be certainly receptive to that and work with them to kind of help people get back on their feet.
And this is quite an event to usher in your status as interim city manager. Any final thoughts that you want to share with our community, primarily those in East Greensboro?
You know, this is the community I grew up in, and it's where I'm raising my family, and it's a community I've chosen to be at, and this is one of the reasons why, and this is the reason why almost 300,000 of us choose to live here, because it is a strong community and a united community, and that's, again, one of the most encouraging things from all this. But I don't want people to forget. It's easy to kind of, as weeks go by, if you're not directly impacted, to kind of move on with your life, as we have to. But don't forget that there are people that still need help and still need some assistance, and continue to be that strong Greensboro that we all know and love.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate you taking time to stop by and talk to us. Thank you. That concludes this special edition of FYI Weekly, but you can easily stay connected to the latest city news by linking to us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. For all of us here at the City of Greensboro, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.